episode 1. So today's episode is really going to touch on emotional development. I've been seeing this term emotional intelligence, and it seems like it's just a twist on emotional development, a new trending topic or what have you, to kind of bring spotlight to the emotions, but I feel um, that people are being misguided in a sense. I had gotten a revelation last month about emotional development. And for those of you who are unaware, that happens during the early stages of childhood into adolescence and young adulthood. Our frontal lobes as humans are developed seriously maybe by the time you reach 27 years on your semesters, 27 semesters on Earth, your frontal lobe should be fully developed. What people are not saying is that during your early childhood and your adolescence and young adulthood, your body is going through puberty. But puberty is just considered by most basic standards to be you get hair on your privates, or you get hair on your legs, or a boy's voices change, or girls grow breasts, or that simplicity of it, which is not all that it entails. um, it entails managing your emotions. That's where your emotional development begins. That's why when children have tantrums, it should be explained, hey, what are you feeling? And the expression should be given in a way that allows the child to express themselves verbally using real words that are not key words. The expression should be taught early in life to children that what you think, your body's cells, your molecular structure feels those thoughts. Then you say it out of your mouth, and the vibrations of the tones of your voice and your words cause a reaction to the particles that are vibrating around you. And the waves are collapsing in either direction, and that is what creates the reality. That's how the scripture and science meet. Science and scripture, the Bible, that is a mathematical formula. Those are formulas. Those are theories and hypotheses that have been completely acted out upon to show how reality is created. But because people are, science is this and religion is that, religion has nothing to do with the mathematic formula of the scripture. Religion is man made. God created the scriptures, right? And it was just translated. And I think it gets lost in translation when you have people putting man made situations or concepts on top of or more important than what was the intentional outcome, which is the scriptures and how to use them to create reality around us. A lot of people say manifesting, but it's just creating. Genesis teaches us creation and the number of days it takes to create and what you do once you've created. And it's just filled with this constant reminder of how to create and a constant reminder of when things appear to be one way, it's not necessarily that way. You have to turn to God within yourself to rid yourself of the adverseness and see the pleasantries of the situation, because there is only good. Like in science, only hot exists, right? Cold doesn't exist, it's just less hot. But because people have to put things in a perspective that allows them to understand situations in this three-dimensional realm we're in, they created good and bad. But that's not a thing. There's only a fast frequency that slows down. But anyway, back to the puberty stages, and exploring that and the emotional development. Most people experience trauma, right? Most, not all, some people experience trauma. When a traumatic experience or adverse experience, meaning any adverse is just something, it's an opponent, an adversary is an opponent, it's something opposite of whatever, it's on the opposing side of you, whether you deem yourself good or bad, right? Um, when a person has an adverse event or a traumatic experience, that burns off neurons in your body. Our brains create neurons. How are neurons created? Neurons are created by being creative. There are brains all over our bodies. Our entire molecular structures have brains. That's how our brain and our spinal cord, our central nervous system, speaks to the other parts of our body and instructs them with codes to do and perform different tasks, voluntarily or involuntarily. The lie is that you don't make neurons anymore. That's not true. Our bodies continuously are going to make neurons. The neurons that you start off with from birth should be burnt off by the time, not all, but a good portion of them should have been replaced by the time you reach your upper semesters of life. But you have to keep creating those. You create those by learning and being a creative person, exercising, doing things that push the envelope for your mind, art, music, athleticism, anything artistic. Even drawing a line on a piece of paper is going to create neurons. So we have to do that consistently in some form of fashion every day or every evening or in the middle of the day. Just create neurons. The reason I brought that up is because a lot of children or adolescents or young adults or teenagers even experience adverse events or traumatic events, but no one tells them to drink some herbal, drink some green tea, or they don't teach them how to revise situations that have occurred to where their body doesn't associate a negative or a lower frequency vibration with a certain situation that occurred or circumstance that occurred. No one's teaching children to do that during their puberty stages. They are teaching children to be outward instead of inward. And puberty is the time in our lives when we are learning ourselves. When you are in a situation where you're learning yourself, you should really be focused on self-confidence. But people are putting children in situations where they have to compete with one another, or they have to be judgmental or being ridiculed or criticized about things that they're doing that aren't necessarily in the trend or the popularity of the masses. But that causes neurons to burn off. And when children or adolescents, whoever's going through puberty, when you are experiencing a situation that is a form of rejection, meaning the situation doesn't go the way that you would like for it to go, whether you ask somebody if they want a piece of gum and they say no, that's a form of rejection, right? It's a form of rejection. And I'm just using that as an example. That lowers your dopamine, that lowers your serotonin. And if you're not trained about how your body works, as well as how waves are constantly collapsing around you growing up, then your mind is going to think things in your mind's going to think them, your body's going to feel them, and your heart is going to react to that. And out of your mouth comes whatever you were thinking that may be a lower frequency that will cause waves around you to collapse in a way that is not desirable or that will create a pleasant experience. This happens with people even if they're not going through puberty. But specifically, I'm talking about puberty now. There are people that are that look like adults, they speak like adults, but their developmental emotional stage is stifled at whatever age they had the traumatic or adverse event when they were going through their puberty. So you may be speaking with somebody that's 75 years old, but they had an adverse event. An adverse event is just an opponent, just something that's not um, desirable, right? Something that's not going to lift the vibration up into a faster vibration. It lowers the vibrational frequency of the person and it causes the neurons to burn off. The neurons are not being replaced, and that person emotionally is stifled at that stage in life that they had that emotional event. Fast forward, you'll notice that when you have some conversations with some people, the first thing that they do is react in a way that is um, similar to a person who has low self esteem or lacks confidence or is afraid of rejection. They're very aggressive in their tone, and their behavior is sometimes impulsive or reactive. You can also equate it to listening. If you listen to just listen to someone who is older and how they speak when um, they're asking you a question and they're not getting the response that they want, their attitude and the behaviors and their mannerisms, their emotional development is the same as someone who's learning how to manage their emotions. Okay? It's very important that we as people, especially when we're studying scriptures and we're also navigating through life, that we recognize that some people that we are related to, some people that we've known for decades or longer, some people that we are being co-workers with, some of our neighbors, people, some of them are not emotionally fully developed. And that is what is causing the arguments, the irrational behavior, and the lack of confidence in statements being made and judgment and reasoning because the emotional development was stifled at whatever age. And then, too, you have to conclude or incorporate the fact that one event may have happened at a certain stage of development, and then something else may have happened at a different stage of that puberty development, and then something else, and then things to just keep compounding. And so the person may not have any emotional development at all, but then they become adults. They're voters. They are teaching children. They are doing things that adults do, tasks, objectives, concepts. They're doing these things that adults do, but they don't have the emotional development that they should have in life. And so they get medicated because, oh, you're just depressed. It's not that you're just depressed. Your emotional development was stifled, and you have to revise those situations so that you can move forward with your development. I know a lot of people that they are they look like adults, they do adult things, but emotionally they are 12 years old. Some of them are 13, some of them are 14, some of them are 10 years old emotionally because the emotion's just not there. It's just not there. An adult whose frontal cortex is completely developed, the last thing they want to do is sit up and argue with you. They don't want to fight with you. They don't want to cuss at you. They're not quick to anger with you. They make sound decisions usually, but when you're not emotionally developed, you're not making sound decisions. And a lot of people are not there yet. And they're just not interested in getting there because they don't have understanding of their body and how the body works, but also that there are compounds and equations, formulas, science, scripture around us working constantly. That's why the scripture says, love your neighbor as you would love yourself. Well, that's an easy one, right? Or the power in the tongue, you know, um, power of your tongue, right? We have to constantly be saying good things to ourselves, high frequency things, high frequency words constantly need to be instilled in ourselves daily throughout the course of the day. Your mind will wander, and if you're not using the scriptures to protect yourself against the mind wandering, and then people that are just not emotionally developed enough, you will your our serotonin levels and dopamine levels will be lowered, and then you'll see distractions pop up all over the place, and it's because your body is feeling the lowering of your dopamine, the lowering of your serotonin. God gave those hormones to us so that we could continuously create. And sometimes certain situations, schools, works, TV shows, just random activities counteract that. But we have to know that that's the case. Um, that was the revelation that I was given. And I was given that revelation while I was listening to someone that I was offering to assist with something. And what she did was just so, I couldn't believe that she was doing this. This happened last month. The lady, she was just so eager to tell somebody off. She just wanted to complain about a situation. There really wasn't an adverse situation. Everything was going the way that it should have gone, but she just could not get past it. And she threatened. What did she say? She said, if you don't let me speak, I'm just going to hang up the phone. And it was just, no, it's not that kind of situation. Just don't let you speak. But she couldn't realize, or didn't realize, or didn't even know that she had to think what she was saying before she said it. Your body is feeling what you think before you say it. After you think it, you feel it, then you say it. But then the waves collapse around you and cause that event to happen around you. It's like a situation where you can't speak anything bad about somebody else, or conjure something low frequency to someone else, or cause a spell that's low frequency to someone else without that ricocheting to you first, right? You would be the first recipient of it because you thought it. And that's why it's important to think from love. Even if I don't want to love my neighbor. Well, it doesn't matter because it's just loving God. You love God within yourself, you can love God within someone else. That's all. Love God. Everybody got God in them, even the animals. Everything on earth is living. The air. I've gotten so many revelations. Um, and I'm going to share this once I conclude the next one, once I conclude this about puberty. Or maybe I'll do it on the next episode. But it's just very important to allow children to experience puberty, but also have understanding that while they're experiencing puberty, they are developing and learning how to manage their emotions. That's what they're learning how to do. And most people have been stifled during that process because people are taught to be outside of themselves instead of inside of themselves. Taught to be okay with people judging them when no one's supposed to judge anybody. And that's just not what it is. They tell little boys, you can't like pink. You ain't like purple. You can't like this. You can't like that. And they tell girls, oh, what do they tell girls? Don't talk to boys. Don't do this and don't do that. It's just so, you can't do that. You can't fix cars. You can't do this. It's just so many different can'ts. And that has nothing to do with their purpose. We are all here to perform a task. And the truth is, you just need the grown-ups to get out of your way. Or other people, just get out of my way so I can do what I'm here to do. If you don't get out of the way, God's going to get you out of my way. And that's not even a threat. Read Exodus. Just saying. Just read Exodus. And that's proof within itself that if you don't get out of my way, God is going to make sure that you're out of the way. And we just have to leave those doors closed, right? But that's the revelation that I've gotten. It's just that, I don't know, puberty is just so important. I remember how it was when I was coming up. And, oh, I feel for you babies out there now. I really do, because y'all not babies. I feel for y'all because people are so judgmental. You have social media. I didn't have that when I was going through puberty. It was just the telephone, and you saw people when you saw them face to face, or you wrote letters. But now you have so many other different mechanisms that can cause people's dopamine levels and serotonin levels to be depleted. And it's just sad that people don't recognize that, children are learning how to manage their emotions, and they don't need any extras involved. And the fact that the ideal of puberty hasn't evolved enough to where people are literally looking at the fact, like, it's just basic science. You're learning how to control your emotions. It's like learning how to manage your superpower, because your emotions are connected to that. It's your feelings. And when people hurt your feelings, they are lowering your frequency. No one even considers that. And then you have people who insist on hurting people's feelings as a profession. That just it sounds diabolical. It sounds like something from a sci-fi movie. You're paid to hurt people's feelings. And your feelings are what connects you to your God power. It connects you to your God within. It connects you to God. How you feel about yourself, about your circumstances. And then the fact that people don't instruct people enough, young people specifically. You don't have to go to church every Sunday, but you do have to know that you are a part of God. So when you look in the mirror, you should be seeing God, because God looking right back at you. He made it out of 1,000,000,000,000 sperm. That is a fact. When you calculate all the experiences sexually your parents have had, but the fact of the matter is, trillions, trillions of sperm. That's a lot. That's a lot. That's a lot. That's a legend. I'm a legend. You're a legend also. So we're going to close this out with one of my favorite scriptures, which is Mark 11:23. He shall have whatsoever he says. Marinate on that and let your imagination, your Jesus Christ, your imagination, shout out to Neville Goddard, let your imagination lead the way.